Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts HD Dream Drop Distance playthrough. Today we're going to go through the magic of the secret portals. Basically, for every single boss fight, well not every single boss fight, but for the majority of the boss fights in the game, there is a special difficult version of them that you can take down. It's not in these are the special portals. However, I am going to, wherever there is a situation where a special portal was in the same room as a secret portal when I went to go take it on, I am going to include those here. Largely because it just makes my whole editing process so much simpler. Because the idea is that I wanted to show you where the secret portals were, but obviously that then means that sometimes a special portal was there, and I was trying to be economical in my gameplay. That was the plan. Just gave me, you know, just much more of a nightmare to edit. It really did, it was insane. But yes, the secret portal is all the way up here. And, yeah, effectively, these secret portals are just more difficult versions of the bosses. And I don't know whether there's sort of any specific stats on what the differences are. But what's pretty much recommended is that you want to be around level 50 to 54 to take on most of these. So I am pretty underleveled to take on some of these, because I do pretty much go for these sort of straight out the gate. And obviously at the end of the game I was only like level 42. So this was a pretty risky proposition, but you know what? It was worth the challenge. Because I mean, it also does mean that I get to take on some of these fights again. I do believe, I think, anyway, I could be wrong. I may speed some of these up after the delight that is the first Hocko Monkey fight, and perhaps the last fight that we have to deal with, which I believe will be Spellican. It's basically all of the Dream Eater fights apart from 2, because you have both Hocko Monkeys, both Wargoyles. You have Rinsler and the Cybercomantis. You have Holy Moly and Captain Pete. And then you have Spellican. Because obviously they don't do one for Chernobog, because that's a dive fight, so they don't do that, and also they don't do any of the boss fights in well, never was. So thankfully they don't make you do harder versions of fights that are already really difficult. But I mean, as you can see, these are definitely no slouches, so if you are having trouble, I would wholeheartedly recommend leveling up a bit more before you go into this, because it could go south. But these do get to show you things that you maybe didn't realise you could do in some of these fights. For example, I didn't realise that you could actually end up smashing the roof of the garden and going right down into it. Annoyingly, that does make this fight quite a lot more difficult, because obviously it's a much smaller space to get away from a Hoko Monkey. And clearly I do not have enough Kyuragas to make this a little bit more fair. But that said, you can get him slightly stuck on things. So there are potential options that you have in order to make your struggles a little bit less terrifying. And yeah, then I was just hoping, you know what, let's try and Link attack him to death. It worked! Miraculously enough. So yes, the basic structure of this part is just going to be going through all of those, and obviously there will be bits of other fighting in between as I get to and from those secret portals, but I can't remember exactly whether it's going to be starting from the room that they're in, or whether it will be entirely a case of going from the nearest save point to the light that is the secret battle. But I think in this particular instance, we will be going... yeah, I told you we were going to be speeding up. And it does seem to me that it is going to be on location rather than from the save point, so speeding ourselves up in terms of the time frames, which is nice. But we're going to be doing it based on world here rather than character. So we're doing Traverse Town, Cité de Cloche, Grid, Prankster's Paradise. I forgot about the Char and Chill Lobsters. Forgot about those, but yes, they are also ones that you will face down again. So yes, we're going to be doing it based on those in the world in that order, so it's going to be sort of a nice chunk like that. I will say, this particular Hoko Monkey fight, one of the most infuriating experiences in terms of doing all of these, because oh boy, it's this bit whenever he goes into the hands. Because even though, as you can see, Riku has a lot more health than Sora does. I mean, I know obviously he got the health bonus from Lord Kairu, but also obviously he's gotten health bonuses from all those extra boss fights that he did that Sora doesn't have. So you do end up being in a situation where Sora's going to be probably more under-leveled dealing with a lot of these, which is going to make it challenging. But I will say that this is just a really infuriating fight. I'm not the biggest fan of this as an arena for a fight, and going through this particular iteration was sort of the prime reasoning for that, because this ramp in the middle, it just gets in the way, and it's very difficult to sort of maneuver around, which then makes it easier for him to hit you, but also because the ceiling's, it's a high ceiling, but the ceiling's not high enough in order to be able to easily get away from attacks, and then he does use this attack far too often, and it just ends up being infuriating, especially in this hard mode, because the only way, you know, continuing the fight is to get rid of all the hands, but obviously you've got to do that, and that just takes time, so the fight just ends up dragging on for far longer than it has any right to. I mean, obviously I am definitely making use of Balloonra and Balloonga and all of those good things. They are pretty much your bread and butter for making it through these more challenging fights, because they do make it a hell of a lot more bearable. I believe things like Faraga Burst are also particularly useful, but the Faraga Bursts are definitely more useful when you can get some height in your fights, because if you can get high enough that the boss can't actually do much to hurt you, then the Faraga Burst will just sort of rain down on them, and you're kind of free from getting absolutely wrecked. That said, I'm definitely not free from getting absolutely wrecked throughout this fight, and oh boy, it did take a while. I would say this is probably one of, if not the longer fights that I had to go through in this portion, because it just dragged. And it was because he kept using that hand move, and by the end of it, I really did not like this Hoko Monkey fight. But thankfully, he is now dead, so that is fine by me. And okay, clearly not entirely just basing on rooms, but that's fine. We are now into La Cité de Cloche, and obviously the terror that is Wargoyle. I remember having, obviously, you guys saw it, quite a bit of trouble with Wargoyle the first time around, but I think that this time should be better. His secret portal is right in the middle here. So you are going to have to defeat some enemies to get to this point. But I will say that, despite, you know, the nightmare, because we now have Balloonra, Balloonga, and also we have some really quite delightful link attacks that aren't going to... well, that aren't based on me having to manoeuvre my characters to actually hit the damn thing. It's going to stand me much better stead for taking him down. Also, I just generally have more healing moves and better healing moves, so that does make this a lot more bearable. Also, because I believe that potentially, because Balloon's a water-based magic attack, I think, it causes a bit more damage to Wargoyle because he's a fire type. Not 100% sure of that being entirely correct, but it definitely feels right, and as you can see, this is going remarkably well in comparison. I mean, obviously I'm still getting beaten 6 ways to Friday, but I'll take what I can get. But yeah, having more healing attacks, well, healing moves throughout this is definitely sort of the way that you probably are going to want to go, because just makes the whole process a lot simpler. But as you can see, by this point I had decided, yeah, I should probably go get Dive Wing, so that is going to make this process a lot smoother than what it was when I was in Traverse Town, because oh boy, that might have gone a little bit quicker had I had Dive Wing, but there we go. Now, Riku's one is up the top of Notre Dame here, obviously, because that's where the fight took place. Generally, the secret portals are in the location of the boss fight. The only one where that is not really the case is Sora's Prankster's Paradise. And that's because... obviously you go to the ocean depths, but the fight itself, the secret portal is actually on the promontory, I think. I think that's what it's called, I don't blooming know. But that is a different location to that, so that's something to pay attention to. But obviously we're not quite there yet. In the meantime, I'm getting... slightly my ass handed to me by this version of Wargoyle. He really likes throwing me for some reason. I don't know. He just seems to have an absolute obsession with it. And it's slightly frustrating, because it's a move that it's slightly difficult to dodge out of the way of, I feel. But then also once you're in it, you're kind of screwed to getting hit by that. But... should be fine, because one more good old Balloonra hit should do him in. And there we go! That is La Cité de Cloche complete! And then it is back on to the grid. Now, this one obviously is in... it's in the spaceship, so you've got to go through to the final room here, and it is here. I will say, the fight against Rinsler, once again, it's challenging. And pretty much, as with the first time you fought him, your best bet is guarding and responding to that. Because he can be, as you're aware, quite aggressive and can cause quite a bit of grief. Thankfully, at this point in time, I have a little bit more manoeuvrability, I suppose. I think it helps because I have a lot more balloon res, I have Balloonga, so generally I'm able to pull these off before he starts getting too close, whereas I think the first time we were here, I maybe only had Balloon, so I didn't have that option available to me. Which was infuriating. So, this clearly does prove that if you have projectile attacks, it is going to make Rinsler a lot more simple. But still, that blocking technique works out a right treat. But also, I really like XGamerRichy Compile. Like, this song is brilliant. And this is one of the things that I also quite like about doing these sorts of parts, is that you do get to experience some of the music a lot more when I do it this method. Because obviously if I'm just speeding up the footage and leaving the audio as is, then you're just hearing sort of a chipmunkified, horrendous version with lots of which just sounds like a monkey having sex. Which obviously you don't want in your ears, definitely not. So, switching over to just having music tracks fill these things out just makes it a lot easier. And because you don't have all the sound effects going off around it, it does allow you to appreciate them a lot more than you would have been able to before. But yeah, I do really like XGamerRichy Compiled, and yeah, this was an area I was just like, oh wait, I can go here? Yes, you can actually. Not actually anything here outside of the secret portal, but you are able to get to this room, because that's where it is. And it is where the boss fight takes place. It was just one of those moments of going, oh, I didn't realise this was here. It's because, once again, 3DS version, I didn't go anywhere near dealing with all of these portals. I mean, also I did the game on standard mode when I played it, because obviously the secret ending had nothing to do really with the difficulty level. So I just didn't. I just thought, let's go for the easier route. But seeing as, you know, I have now done all of these playthroughs from Kingdom Hearts 2 onwards on Proud Mode, I kind of feel that I'm going to have to stick to that until the end. So it's pretty much confirmation of Kingdom Hearts 3 on Proud Mode, which might completely bite me in the bum. But I'm willing to do it for Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'm willing to do it for you guys. Because I suppose part of me just wants to feel like an absolute badass. So that's basically what I'm going to have to do. So yes, this is one of the things where I was just like, I got so lost trying to find where the secret portal is for Chill Clawbster. Because initially I went searching in the ocean depths, because I was like, well, clearly it's going to be at the end of there to take this on, and it wasn't there. I was like, wait, what? Why is it not there? What the heck is going on? And then it was just like, oh, it's in the promontory, and I was just like, is it? I didn't see it. It's because I was being a blind ass fool. Because it's right by the entrance to the ocean, basically. So, I mean, I wasn't being that blind, because, I mean, it's here. It's not the easiest of locations to spot. But it's fine, because, once again, this is just going to be quite fun. I mean, really, I did enjoy going back to a lot of these fights. Apart from, you know, that first Hocker Monkey fight, because that was just awful. But the rest of them, I just remember having a lot of fun with the challenge, really. Because sometimes you want a challenging fight. You don't always want them in the main playthrough. Like, obviously, I know that a lot of people really do not like the young Xehanort fight in Dream Drop Distance. And while I would be partially inclined to agree, I do think that, as I mean, you saw in this very playthrough, it's not the most diabolical in the world. The frustrating bit of the fight is the bit where, with the clock, where if you don't defeat it in time, he will partially heal. So you have to continue with the boss fight, and that can get really tedious. I would say that probably, in general, the worst boss fights in this game are Xehanort Part 2, because it's so much more difficult to tell, well, Ansem Secret Darkness Part 2, I should say, because it's just too difficult sometimes to tell how you're meant to dodge an attack. Some of them are just really difficult to dodge, and also if you die in that phase of the fight, then it suddenly makes any retries a lot harder, because you're immediately at a disadvantage because you've got to wait for your command deck to reload. So that's a particularly infuriating and not hugely well designed boss fight in my eyes. Also, Hocker Monkey Richy version, because the area is just too small. It's far too small, and also just those moves which then mean that you can't actually hit him. It's just too infuriating. Could not be doing with it. So, I'd say they're probably my least favourite fights. And I suppose, in terms of favourite boss fights, I'm trying to think about those now, actually. I'm not really sure that Dream Drop Distance has any that I, like, really, truly, majorly love. Because they have their frustrations. I mean, I suppose I quite like the Captain Pete fight, because I think that one is relatively well designed. It's a pretty fair fight. There's just the slight frustration of when he jumps upon the moon, the sun and moon, and that's swinging about, because then you have to wait for him to come back down before you can do anything. I think there might be a way to block it, but I can't remember what it is. And I suppose I do quite like the Rinsler fight, but I like it more in concept than execution. Because obviously it is very block heavy, and it's the only fight in the game like that, which is very interesting. I do like that it's sort of the only fight like that, but that is just a bit infuriating. I suppose I do also really quite like the Xemnas fight, because it makes use of the flow motion to obviously get out of the way of attacks. That's quite cool. Obviously there's the whole building situation of him throwing skyscrapers and you cutting through them, and that's really quite awesome. So I would say that, yeah, those are probably my favourite fights in the game. So least favourite and favourites. If you started asking me like favourites and least favourites across the entire franchise, I think we'd be here for quite a while. But yeah, that's fine. I might save that sort of discussion for the next part, because the next part is going to be one of the well, it's going to be, without a shadow of a doubt, the longest part of the extras. Because we are going to be dealing with a lot of stuff. But yes, it's time to take down Pete and the Beagle Boys. But yeah, the next part is the special portal part, which let me just tell you is an incredible feat of editing, because it's about 5-6 hours of footage, cut down, sped up to I think about 50 minutes. So you're getting about an hour's worth of gameplay in 10 minutes, which is crazy. It took me quite a while to go through, it really did. But it's fine, it's what I do. I do this because I love you guys. And as I said, I am crazy and stubborn, so this is what I do. But I would be intrigued. Let me actually have a look at that. So yeah, basically one of the things that I was just thinking about is a comparison that I wanted to make of the unlockable Keyblades, of which ones are going to do the most good. So, right, so Dive Wing is your easiest accessible great unlockable Keyblade, because you get it after completing every dive with an A rank. It's got strength of 12, magic of 15, length of 113, so it's one of the longest Keyblades. All of the unlockable Keyblades are 113 in length. All of them have a 30% crit potential. They just vary quite a bit on the strength and the magic fronts. So, for completing all the Flick Crush Cups, you saw that we got Sweet Dreams, so it is better than Dive Wing in terms of sheer attack, because it's 14 points rather than 12. However, it's a marked decrease in terms of magic, so it's 12 rather than 15. So I would say, probably in general, you are going to want to take in Dive Wing to most of these secret portal battles if you haven't got the Keyblade that you get for completing all of the special portals. So the Keyblade that you get for completing all of the special portals is called End of Pain, and that is a pretty damn good Keyblade. It's got the highest magic stat of any of the Keyblades at 16, and its attack stat is 14. So basically, it takes the best of both worlds of Dive Wing and Sweet Dreams and merges it into one Keyblade. So they're pretty good motivators for getting through things. For completing all the secret portals, you get the strongest physical Keyblade, which is obviously what we're working toward right now, which is called Unbound. So, it's also particularly good for reality shifts, and I think damage from reality shifts, I think that's how it works. Because it's got 18 points on strength, so it's physically stronger than Ultimate Weapon, which is slightly crazy when you think about it, but I suppose it makes sense. But it does have a weaker magic stat. So, magically, it is weaker than Dive Wing or End of Pain. It is stronger than Sweet Dreams, though. So, it's useful. But I would argue that perhaps in some instances it's not as useful as End of Pain would be, because obviously magic is very important in this game, and for some of the more challenging fights you probably do want to use magic more so than physical attacks. I mean, particularly the optional boss. Magic attacks are far superior in terms of taking it down than physical attacks. So having that higher magic stat is good for you. That said, because of where that secret boss is located, you automatically go into the fight when you enter that room. And if you haven't already gotten all of the special portals that are located in that area before you beat the game, you are going to have to beat the secret boss in order to then be able to do those special portals. Which, yeah, that's a bit of a nightmare. And ultimately, I believe it's what ended up happening in my situation, is that I had completed those special portals. So in order to beat those special portals, I needed to beat the secret boss. Which, it's a bit of a backwards way of doing it, but it works. And then obviously, last but not least, in terms of the Keyblade, you've got Ultimate Weapon, which is your best all-round Keyblade. It has 16 on both stats for Strength and Magic, so it's not as physically strong as Unbound, but outside of Unbound it is the strongest Keyblade. In terms of Magic, it is the strongest Keyblade along with End of Pain. So it's the most balanced of the unlockable Keyblades and has a 10% thing on the shift. So that can be really quite helpful. And basically, at that point, all of the other Keyblades go out the wazoo in terms of being of any use to you. It's one of the things that I am looking forward to quite a bit with Kingdom Hearts 3, is the fact that the Keyblades have more to them than simple kind of damage calculations. Because that means that you're more likely to be able to use ones that you either like the design of, or like sort of the moves of, because that's what they're primarily for now. And it means that you're not going to end up stuck with a Keyblade that maybe you don't like the look of. I mean, as you can see, here's Unbound. It's not the most stunning, shall we say, of Keyblades visually. It's quite cool looking, don't get me wrong. But it's a bit funky. And so ultimately it's not really my favourite. But it's going to put the work in, and that's going to be good. Also, I will say Drac Quack has a really weird unlock system. It's bizarre. Because it's entirely based on items. But hey, there we go. So obviously we've beaten all the bosses that Riku has in terms of secret portals, which means that all is left, well, all that's left, get it right, is Sora's trip to the Symphony of Sorcery to take on Spellican. At least, you know, this time I know what I'm doing on the rail bit, so that should go a lot more smoothly than it did last time. Because yeah, that was not pretty the first time round. That was pretty hideous. I do apologise. Yes, what you need to do is you need to, oh, for God's sake, I would just need to climb up to the top of this tower to get to the secret portal, but then you guys showed up and just had to be sods. I was all ready to be like really cool going into this fight, and then you just had to sort of ruin it. But yes, here is our secret portal, and it is time to take on Spellican once again. Oh, I didn't notice his wings are basically piano keys. That's awesome. I suppose, to be honest, I do quite like the Spellican fight in terms of the aesthetic of the arena, because it is quite spectacular. I mean, this whole sequence, while frustrating, is quite fun, and it is different, and to be honest, I will always appreciate different. in terms of anything. And that was definitely a lot smoother than the first time round. But yes, then it's just a case of taking him down, as we have obviously a repeat of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. But we're not really having sort of much excitement in the tune at present, so we'll just have to roll with it and just sort of... There we go, finally it picks up. I was just going, you're not really giving me much of an epic finale to this whole shebang. But it's okay. Because, I mean, really anything to take on this Smog-ass Dream Eater, take him down twice, just makes me really happy. I will say these little brooms are quite funky, because obviously they're based on the actual brooms from Sorcerer's Apprentice, but they've got like little orbs, which I suppose are little lightning orbs, that why they, you know, using their electricity on us. But yeah, I would not say that the Spelican fight is overly challenging in the grand scheme of things. And that was entirely pointless link. Great, thanks for that. Let's not use that one again, because I didn't get the point of that. I think it gave me full link again, so maybe it wasn't entirely pointless. But it felt pointless, because I think I was just like, what did I gain from that? Yeah, it's one of the things where I suppose I maybe should have tried out some more of Sora's links throughout the game, but because obviously each Dream Eater has its own link attack, mostly, it's a little bit challenging to know which ones you covered, which ones you haven't, without, you know, going into the guide and all that jazz, and honestly, not something I could be particularly bothered with doing. But I have to say, I am super excited, because basically next week, in terms of my uploading schedule anyway, and also for anybody watching the playthrough as it's released, like good subscribers do, he says. Obviously totally not seriously, like, watch these things whenever the hell you like if you want to watch them at all, like, honestly. But there are only going to be 3 more parts of Dream Drop Distance left. Like, the playthrough is very, very nearly at its end, and it's going to be really quite fun to basically say that I've covered the majority of the franchise at this... Well, I mean, I already have covered the majority of the franchise at this point, but the fact that I will have beaten the... well, kind of fully beaten in terms of playthroughing it, the penultimate full game in the Kingdom Hearts series. Well, the final full game before Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously. Because 0.2 Final Chapter Prologue is not really a... well, it's not a full game. It's basically a demo. It's really short. So short, in fact, that it's even shorter than what my initial estimate was in terms of editing it all together. Because I was thinking it was going to be about 6 parts in total. And no, it is only 4. 1 for each chunk, and this was a moment where I was going, oh god, do not do this to me, but then we got there in the end. But yes, that is really short. So for anybody wondering when I shall start my Kingdom Hearts 3 playthrough, there are 3 parts of Dream Drop Distance remaining. there will be 3 parts of Kingdom Hearts Key back cover, and there will be 4 parts of Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a Fragmentary Passage, which will lead us directly, as far as I'm concerned anyway, into my Kingdom Hearts 3 playthrough, which I'm expecting. It might not quite work out like that, but it's what I'm expecting to be my final solo playthrough on the channel. We will see whether that is what actually happens, because that is, you know, entirely dependent on how long it takes. But, yes, everything is truly coming to an end. And that is a crazy thought, for me, anyway. But, I mean, if these guys could stop attacking me, that would be nice. Because I honestly cannot be bothered. I would like him to just die right now. But I think that with this, he is basically going to be no more. You know, if you could just stay still for like 5 seconds. It's just like, you're nearly dead, mate. Just die already, save us the trouble. Just like, just come on, just die. Thank you. So yes, that is every single secret portal in the game complete. Unbound collected for both Sora and Riku. Time to move onwards to those special portals. Oh, good God. See you then.